Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome to the Duskmourn Early Access Streamer Event. Thanks to Wizards of the Coast, I've been provided with an early access account to show off some of these cards right before the pre-release. It's a very unique, very spoopy set. It's inspired by modern film horror, and it has some fresh new mechanics like the brand new room card type. If you can't wait to play the set yourself, pre-releases start this Friday, and the full launch on Arena is on Tuesday. But with the whole intro out of the way, without further ado, let's hop into my very first draft of the brand new format and see what horrors await for us in the plane of Duskmourn. Alright, here we are for our pack 1 pick 1, and we've got a lot of sweet options showing off a lot of new mechanics. So first and foremost, I think I'm going to take House Cartographer here. This shows off the survival mechanic, where basically if you start the game ahead, you're just going to snowball and get really far ahead, because survival is just a triggered ability that at the beginning of your second main phase, if the creature is tapped, you get some kind of benefit. So if it managed to attack in and survive, then you get to pull a land out of your deck, put it into your hand with this card. So that makes sure you hit every land drop going up the curve, as long as your House Cartographer stays on board. So seems really good, a great way to draw all your lands on curve. We've also got the Manifest Dread mechanic, which is pretty fun. It's going to let you look at the top 2 cards of your library and put one of them on the battlefield as a face-down 2/2 and the other into your graveyard. So it gives you a little bit of digging to try to specifically find a creature to manifest. And if you do manifest specifically a creature, you can flip that creature up for its mana cost later. So you can flip it into a really big card. So that was the Manifest Dread mechanic on the other pretty sweet common, or pretty sweet uncommon. And there'll be plenty more mechanics to go over here as we go through these packs, but I do want to explain everything I take first and foremost. Although I am going to be drafting very simply, at least during this draft, but pretty much during the full early access event, so that I can learn all these cards because I haven't really read them all yet. So we're going to be pretty glued to our early colors pretty quickly. Just taking a peek at some other stuff. Is this good enough? So if it survives, you turn one of your lands into a 3/3, but it's only a 3/4 for 5. The haste does make it more likely to trigger. If it survives again, then you can make that 3/3 land a 6/6. I don't know, it seems decent, but I feel like this Fear of Abduction looks really nice. So it's a 6 mana 5/5 flyer. You have to exile a creature you control to cast it, but if you do, you get to exile a creature an opponent controls. So you exile your opponent's best creature and your worst creature, and then when this dies, you both get the cards back to your hands. So you can cast them out again later. Seems pretty cool. And obviously being a big alien UFO thing is pretty fun. So starting green-white for now, and those are the survival colors. They've got a lot of cards like Friendly Ghost here to help you get an attack in and have your creature survive. +2/+4. That's such high toughness, it'll almost guarantee an attack. So another main mechanic in the set, this is probably the most unique one, the newest mechanic, is rooms. So these are split enchantments, like we've had split spells before. You can cast either half of this card, and then it sits there on the board giving you all of that half's abilities. So you could play the Surgical Suite, so that you can return a creature's mana value 3 less from your grave to the battlefield, and that's all it does. That's all it's going to do sitting on the board until you spend another 4 to play the Hospital Room to start getting +1/+1 counters on your attacking creatures. So very cool mechanic. We'll probably show off a little more later. But I'm just going to go for the Say Its name here. It's one of the funnest, goofiest build-arounds that also happens to be just good value up front. You get to mill 3 and put your best creature or land back into your hand. And if you manage to get 3 of these in your graveyard, you can pull out the Altanak the Thrice Called, which is an uncommon legend that's like a 9/9 trample. So if you can cast 3 of these, you get a big 9/9 trample onto the board for free. So it's a fun little build-around card. And I think it goes well into any deck just as a little card draw, card selection. Pick 4. We do have another survival card, the Veteran Survivor. 1 mana 2/1, beginning of your second main phase if it manages to be tapped. Exile a card from a grave, and if it's exiled 3 or more cards, it becomes a 5/4 hexproof. Yeah, if you have the tools to keep this around long enough, your 1-drop ends up being a 5/4 hexproof. That is really absurd. Now, obviously, it's going to be pretty hard to keep it around that long, but a 1 mana 2/1 is already decent, so I'll grab that here. If we draft enough cards that care about survival, we're naturally going to be drafting plenty of ways to try to get them in. Trapped in the Screen. When it enters, exile an artifact, creature, or enchantment until it leaves the battlefield. Very nice. It's an Oblivion Ring style removal with a ward ability. So even if they do have the enchantment removal, to get their card back, they have to spend extra to cast it. To blow that up, that seems pretty sweet. Rite of the Moth is also very sweet, very fun. Graveyard Recursion spell, or Reanimator spell. That is definitely what the black-white archetype in this format is doing. It can do some really cool stuff, but we're going to grab the Trapped in the Screen here. Just excellent, efficient removal. We want to take that pretty highly during early access and pre-release events like this, where we don't know the set well. Just make sure you've got a good amount of creatures and removal and stuff at the base of your deck, and then start doing your fancy nonsense. Speaking of fancy nonsense, most of this pack looks like some weird fancy nonsense that doesn't exactly fit with our stuff. I guess we can take this Fear of Immobility. Like, the worst case scenario is a 5-mana 4/4 that stuns an opposing blocker for a turn, which is kind of nice. That's like Bergstrider from Kaldheim, if you've been playing Magic as long as I have. Kaldheim's a little old by now, but that card was pretty good. And it also has the added flexibility of tapping your own creature to trigger its survival ability. So say we manage to get like 2 attacks in with this Veteran Survivor in the early game, so it has 2 cards exiled under it, but now it can just never get in again. Well, maybe we draw into Fear of Immobility and tap it, and then that'll be the 3rd card exiled, and then it's big enough to get in again, so that could be pretty sweet. Pick 7, like the flexibility of Exercise quite a bit. Gives you main deckable artifact or enchantment removal, because most decks will have at least 1 or 2 creatures with power 4 or greater at minimum. And there are plenty of enchantment creatures in the format, as you can see. I mean, we already have one of our own. All the nightmare creatures are enchantments, so should be a good amount of targets for the Exercise. Pick 8. That's a little unsettling. 2 copies of Unsettling Twins, looking very suspicious, but hey, I'll absolutely take it. Stick to our green-white deck for now. Keep things simple. This is 4 mana for 2 2/2s, and as we've seen in a lot of previous limited formats, all of these kind of creatures that come with 2 separate bodies for 1 spell have been pretty good, and this one gives you some flexibility with Manifest Dread. That second 2/2 you're getting might be more than just a twin. It might be something very large and unsettling that you can flip up later as a big threat. Pick number 9, Jump Scare. Love that that's a card in the format. Target creature gets +2/+2 flying, becomes a horror enchantment. 1 mana +2/+2 flying trick. Seems decent. I guess I could just take that, sticking deep to white. Green is not panning out. It looks like green is getting pretty heavily drafted here. So we could also speculate on our second color here, taking Impossible Inferno for removal, or Vengeful Possession to be really aggressive if we want to go towards Boros. I've never read that keys thing, but it's probably decent too. Okay. I don't think Duskmourn's Domination is great, because you're turning whatever you steal into a low power creature with no abilities. But you are still killing whatever you steal, so it's like a big expensive removal spell that gives you a doofus, a big idiot with low power. Maybe we can push to blue-white if we're going to wheel all these dominations. Although we could be wheeling the dominations because everybody thinks they suck, which maybe they do. Maybe they do. Haven't played with them yet. We'll find out. All right, pack 2. What do we have here? We have a Grievous Wound. Doubles the damage you deal to your opponent. 5 mana is kind of a lot for that. But honestly, it doesn't seem completely unplayable, but certainly not worth hopping into that color, I think. There's a Killer's Mask. Manifest something with the Menace mask onto it, and then you can move this around later when that creature dies. Is it wrong that I just want to take Acrobatic Cheerleader here? Because I'm like so glued to white, and this seems like a perfectly solid 2-drop to start your curve. 2 mana 2/2. If it manages to attack in without dying, it's going to have flying for the rest of the game. I'm going to take the Acrobatic Cheerleader here and keep our second color a little more open, because I also just don't think the blue spells look super good. Fear of Imposter is probably the best, but you are still giving your opponent a 2/2, so instead of whatever they were going to cast, they get a 2/2 that they can flip up later. Pack 2, pick 2. Ooh, Unstoppable Slasher might be worth jumping onto black. 3 mana, 2/3 Death Touch. If it deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life, rounded up. And if it dies, it comes back with 2 stun counters. Sure. Yeah, that seems worth moving to black. Sorry about the squeaky chair. There's good blue here too. Unnerving Grasp seems excellent. Bounce your opponent's best non-land permanent and get a 2/2 off of your Manifest Dread. Maybe even be able to flip it up later. But the Slasher seems like an awesome rare. Pick 3. Now we can start grabbing some of these Winter's Interventions we've been seeing flying around. Just solid cheap removal. Feels like I want to take that pretty highly. I mean, Killer's Mask also looks good, but I only have Exercise and Trapped in the Screen right now for removal. I guess theoretically Fear of Abduction sort of counts. But I'm going to take removal really highly. We'll grab a Winter's Intervention there. Pick 4, another Unsettling Twins. I enjoy that. There's also a 2 mana 2/2 Vigilance that surveils every time it attacks. That's just a lot of stats. Feels good. I want to keep the curve kind of low and aggressive here. I don't mind that. Over another 4-drop. And off color, there's some really fun cards, but you have to do math. Prime numbers of lands, no thanks. Yeah, we'll take Fear of Surveillance here. Pick number 5. Okay, I don't think I have any discard effects right now. So I've got a Possessed Goat. I can discard something from my hand to the Possessed Goat, and the reason we would want to do that is that Black-White has some Reanimator spells so that you can actually just bring your Shroud Stomper straight from the graveyard to the battlefield. That is what the Black-White archetype is trying to do, is reanimate some really big creatures, generally. So there's like a common, there's a couple commons you can use to reanimate, and that really good uncommon we passed on earlier, sadly. Fanatic of the Harrowing, that's another way to discard our cards, like Shroud Stomper. I'm going to take the Shroud Stomper here, get the excellent Reanimator target, and see if we can do some Reanimator nonsense. We can absolutely use a murder. Everyone could do with a little more murder in their lives. Pick 7, Living Phone. Nice. What on earth does it do, though? 3 mana 2/1. When it dies, look at the top 5 cards of your library. Reveal a creature power 2 or less from among them. Put it into your hand. So it dies, and then you draw another card. It replaces itself. Ooh, Unsettling Twins seems really good with that card. Potentially getting a 4-drop. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards in the deck it can pick up right now. It's not a huge amount, but feels decent. Probably better than a Delirium card. Delirium is a mechanic where you need to have 4 different card types in your graveyard to get it going, so it's a little difficult to get there unless you're really building around it. You need an artifact, enchantment, creature, and land, or a sorcery, an artifact, land, a creature. Any combination works. Hardened Escort is like the build-around survival card. Make sure you get your survival attacks in, so it's good with our veteran survivor. But I also think Ethereal Armor looks decent in the format. It's a lot of enchantments randomly. So this could be like 1 mana for +3/+3 first strike, sometimes even bigger. Pick 9's an easy Killer's Mask. This is another way to get our Reanimator targets in grave. Since if we see 2 cards with our Manifest Dread, one of them is a high mana value creature and the other is a land, we can just manifest the land to put the creature in grave if we have a Reanimator spell in our hand that can pick that creature up from grave. So we've got those manifest abilities. We also have the ability to surveil one. We also have the ability to discard a card. If we find the reanimation spells, I'll take a couple of them. See if we can cheat out a Shroud Stomper or a Fear of Abduction. But we actually look to be generally just an aggressive black-white deck. Just a low curve and some good removal. Doing some pretty basic stuff here. Let's see what we got out of pack 3. We have Another Unsettling Twins, another Fear of Immobility, another Winter's Intervention, a Fear of the Dark, and a Vile Mutilator. This is a lot of mana. And you have to sack a creature or enchantment to play it. But then each opponent has to sack a non-token enchantment and a non-token creature. And even better, if you reanimate this from your graveyard, you did not technically cast it, so you don't have to sacrifice anything, but you still get the Enter's effect. This is a little wishful thinking here, but I'm going to take Vile Mutilator, cross my fingers, and hope we find one or two of those ways to reanimate cards. So pack 3, pick 2. There's one of them. Emerge from the Cocoon. Seems like one of the least efficient ways, 5 mana to reanimate something. But still, with some of the combos we have in our deck right now, probably worth it. Tap, search library for a card, put in your grave, then shuffle. That's a fun card. Cynical Loner can fill the grave for your reanimator cards. Innocuous Rat also seems good. 2 mana, 1/1 when it dies. Get your 2/2 out of your manifest ability. I'm going to lock in here. I'm going to take the Emerge from the Cocoon and make sure I have 1 or 2 of those effects. Ooh, 2 rares that are on color. So Unholy Annex and Ritual Chamber. 5 mana for a 6/6 flyer. Okay, so Ritual Chamber's good. And Unholy Annex is at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. If you control a demon, each opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. Wow. Draw a bunch of extra cards off of it? That's absurd. What about Victor, Vel'Vegos Seneschal? 3 mana, 3/3, whenever an enchantment enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, surveil 2. If it's the first time you've done it. If it's the second time, each opponent discards a card. If it's the third time, you reanimate something. So you have to have 3 enchantments enter in 1 turn, or 2 enchantments and unlock a room, or any combination like that. I feel like the Unholy Annex Ritual Chamber just feels a little more consistently good. Don't really have to put any work into that card for it to be great. Probably just take another Winter's Intervention here. Although this Bloodsucker is going to be like a 4 mana, 4/5 lifelink most of the time. Every time we're playing enchantments or unlocking rooms. I'll go with the Winter's Intervention. Pick 5. Another Living Phone. Seems okay. We might be having to cut the first one, though, because now some of our creatures aren't technically creatures, like Killer's Mask and stuff. We might be cutting the first Ethereal Armor as well. So we didn't actually end up grabbing much more enchantments. I guess the pack's just kind of empty for us. We'll grab another Telephone. Pick 6. Popular Egotist, Cracked Skull, and Jump Scare. So Cracked Skull, we can discard our own card to reanimate it later, but I have 1 reanimation spell in the deck and plenty of ways to surveil like manifest abilities and stuff, so it's probably better to just take the good creature. We can sack things to give it indestructible, and when we do, we drain our opponent for a life. Seems fine. It's a super sweet red mythic, but sadly we're not the red deck here. And I expect during the early access event and during the pre-release, we're going to be passing plenty of absurd cards while we're still reading through everything that's on color. I'm sure there's plenty of absurd things I've missed that are off color. Get that Bloodsucker now. That's another card we can draw off of the Living Phone, actually. Kind of sick. Another Fear of Immobility. I can finally read Keys to the House. So you just grab whatever basic you need, or you lock or unlock a room you control when you sack it. That's really cute. So say we've opened up the Ritual Chamber and gotten our demon, we could sack the key to lock the Ritual Chamber. That way I could re-spend the 5 and get another 6/6 flyer. That's really cute. I enjoy that. Another Possessed Goat. We only got 1 way to reanimate things, though. So I don't want to go overboard on discard effect. Yeah, definitely do some adjustments to this deck. Mainly just be black-white aggro stuff with a really good Ritual Chamber bomb rare. But a slight Reanimator sub-theme here. We get to cut 10 cards. Probably a lot of goats, again, with all of our Surveil and Manifest. To put cards in grave, Ethereal Armor. I'm going to be lowering the Enchantment count here. Not super into the Cracked Skull. It seems fine, but I think most of our other cards look really good. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 cards to cut there. I actually don't love the Egotists here, weirdly. Because we can't draw them off of the living phone, and we don't have super expendable sack targets. Nor are we sacking things otherwise, like to other effects of ours. Yeah. Just cut all those. Our curve is not great, but double Winter's Intervention can help us survive the early game. Buy us time. For all these random, big, balmy top-end cards. The deck certainly ended up much less aggressive than I was kind of hoping for and going for when we got the Unstoppable Slasher. But still has some really powerful top-end and plenty of defensive plays in the early game to help buy us time to get there. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but without further ado, let's hop into the very first games of Duskmourn. Alright, well, we get to look like an aggro deck this game. Our very first game of Magic, and we have Veteran Survivor into Fear of Surveillance into Unstoppable Slasher curve out. Feels like an unstoppable curve, and especially when our opponent's on 2 mulligans already, it looks like. This is going to be pretty disgusting, but we'll see. They are on the play. Insidious Fungus turn 1. That stops our Veteran Survivor from doing its stuff. That's just going to trade right off into it. If I don't Winter's Intervention that. Might have to do that instead of Fear of Surveillance just to try to get this to the 5-4 stat line, if I can. Mono green so far. Forest, and then a Forest Cycler. Alright, cool. So this doesn't... Yeah, it doesn't tap anything or anything. So we just Winter's Intervention to get Survivor in. Let's exile the 5-4, just in case. Or the 7-6, geez, that's even bigger than I thought it was. Just in case of any kind of graveyard recursion or anything. Because we don't know their second color, and they are on black, so that could be graveyard recursion. Does this do anything? It's when it deals combat. Okay, it doesn't do anything pre-combat, so we can main phase to that. Alright, and this Fear of Immobility is going to guarantee this gets to its 3rd exiled card. Because even if like stunning their blocker isn't going to be enough, I can just tap my own Veteran Survivor. So that should be awesome. Beginning of your upkeep, each player draws 2. If they get to Delirium, then we have a smaller max hand size than them, but they're not going to get to Delirium. Because we keep exiling stuff from their grave. Unsettling Twins is a solid draw here. I definitely attack with Unstoppable Slasher, because if it hits, they take 1,000,000. If it doesn't hit, it comes back with stun counters, so we just win that fight. Alright, they take 1,000,000. Boom! Alright. Here's Unsettling Twins into Fear of Immobility next turn to get the Survivor going. That's the plan. Alright, everybody draws 2. And there's that land. We need another Fear of Immobility as well. There's the keys to the house. They've got 3 color here, and the keys to the house can grab a 4th if they need it. Each player discards a card. Alright, Fear of Surveillance at this point. We've got the 5 mana for all these 5 drops. We're just going to start slamming them down. Actually, with our opponent tapped out, just stunning a blocker might be enough for lethal. It'll put them to 1. They have to block Unstoppable Slasher and take 6. Yeah, so we definitely do that, because they have to trade into the Unstoppable Slasher, take 6. Otherwise, if they block anybody else, if the Slasher gets in, it's going to finish them off with its triggered ability, making them lose half of one, rounded up. All right, lose half of one, rounded up. That will end the game. Starting things off 1-0 for our first draft of Duskmourn. All right, this is the kind of hand I was more expecting from this deck. 5, 6, 7, and 4 mana. Our opponent's on the play, but they've taken a mulligan. I'm just going to see what happens. If we start with the worst curve ever, we might just get blown out by an aggressive curve like we did to our opponent game 1. But if this game goes long, high power cards in this hand. Fear of Isolation, a 2/3 flyer to start things off, which is unfortunately out of reach. My Winter's Intervention. My only cheap play. On the plus side, they had to pick up a land to do that, so we know they're not going to be curving out super fast here. They are down on mana. Alright, just waiting for turn 4. Get our Bloodsucker going. That lifelink can really get us back in the game if we can keep playing enchantments. Green-blue deck. There's a Flesh Burrower, a little Death Toucher. Also gives one of their attacking creatures Death Touch every turn. So it makes attacks really good, and it makes attacking into them not really possible, so... Clear that out with our intervention. Drop the Bloodsucker. Okay, I'm looking for any spell in my deck that costs 5 or less next turn, because we have nothing we want to play next turn right now. I'd like to do something. No, well, I guess I get to play Bloodsucker again, if I don't draw something then. That is something-ish. Exercise is the draw. That's an option too. We can just exile this flyer finally. You can also exile this before they get the creature off of it, the Slimy Aquarium, which if they end up manifesting something that's bigger than a 2/2, that +1/+1 counter can go a long way. Like if they manifest like a 3/4, it's going to be a 4/5. So I don't mind exercising the aquarium either. Feel like I'm probably still supposed to just play the Bloodsucker though, but an option. Overgrown Zealot. That's a mana dork. 2 mana to flip permanents, 1 mana just in general. Cool. Okay, so Fear of Immobility here can get us a big lifelink swing to be really back in the game. I like that a lot. I don't want to Fear of Abduction away my 2/5. Probably stun the mana dork. Because the Bloodsucker lifelink is already going to be enough to outrace the Fear of Isolation. Zimone! Is that a prime number? That's a prime number, I think, because it's got the gold thing. Yep, so they get a Fractal, they get a 5/5. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. So... Man, I still don't have anything expendable to exile for Fear of Abduction, but I kind of need to kill Zimone. The next prime number is 7. I guess I don't have to do anything about Zimone until they're going to play land 7. They're just going to play land 6 next turn. So yeah, I've got a turn to just be mana efficient. Get this thing going. Alright, slimy aquarium time. Manifest a 3/3 at worst, but it might be a bigger creature to flip up later. And that Zealot would be 2 mana for flipping up some stuff. Cool. There's a Living Phone. Living Phone is a way better target for Fear of Abduction. Even if it doesn't trigger when we Fear of Abduction it. Well, that's going to give us the way to deal with Zimone. They've already played land 6, though, so it's going to take too long. They will get the 7/7 at this rate. Exercise the 5/5 to get Shroud Stomper in, then it kills 2 creatures minimum. Yeah. Yeah, if they want to kill this, I kill their 3/3 and 2/2. Sick. And then I can just reanimate it. Or I can give up on Bloodsucker and exile Zimone. Oh wow, the 3/3 and 2/2, one of them was a 4/4 flyer. Yeah, let's get rid of Zimone. I think Zimone's a problem. Big spoopy alien has arrived. Oh, that's just the classic alien face. What is it, the greens or whatever? I don't remember. Alright, well, there's another spooky, rare, unblockable thing. Got a Fear of Immobility for it. Which I think we gotta do here. Do that and play the phone. These Fear of Immobilities have been actually pretty sick. Alright, cool. Get the flyer out of the way to guarantee Fear of Abduction lethal pretty quick. Here's the phone. Does the Fear, is it an enter effect? It is an enter effect, so even if I reanimate it, it triggers. Kind of legit. There's the Underwater Tunnel. That could manifest a flyer or a reach creature. That'd be the only way they're stopping Fear of Abduction for another turn. Yeah, these just high mana value white and black creatures are incredible. Even if you just hard cast them like we did this game. Like, we have our reanimator effect. We didn't even use it. Alright. Attacking for 5 out of 7. Is there a way to lethal here? Yes, there is. We emerge a Fear of Immobility, attack with everybody. And they can only block 4, which means they take 7 from the Fear and the phone. That is exact lethal, even on their best block. And that is 2-0 heading into game 3. All right, here we are for game 3. We're on the draw, but we have another great aggressive curve with that Veteran Survivor, the Fear of Surveillance turn 1 and 2. Playing against the blue-black deck, a lot of really good controlling options in the color pair in this format. They have the Eerie mechanic primarily, triggering for all of the enchantments, entering the battlefield, and rooms being unlocked. But yeah, this 3/3 roadblock has already hit the board. We can murder it later. If we get to any land for Slasher, that'll be incredible. We just keep sending in the Slasher. Yeah, I'm going to just do that. What is the Creeping Peeper? It's just a blue mana dork. Blue gets a lot of these lately. They tap for like whatever blue's doing in the format, usually instants and sorceries, but in this set it looks like enchantments and room abilities, and flipping a manifest face up. All right, well, there's our emerge target if we find a way to discard it. I don't mind exercising the aquarium. I wonder what happens if you do it in response to them spending the 4. They probably get the card. I guess we could do it for science later, but I kind of want to just murder this researcher and get aggressive. I'm just going to murder the researcher and get aggressive for now. Goodbye to our 2-1, but only has 1 toughness anyway. Leave that on top. Well, if they don't block the slasher, they are taking... They're going to like 8 or something ridiculous. Yeah, they're going to 8 if they don't block the slasher. So, I mean, this is an expensive trade. I keep forgetting that. Jeez Louise, unstoppable slasher. Tunnel Surveyor, that's going to help a lot. 2 blockers, so they can trump the slasher here. It is a big deal. It comes back stunned even if it dies, so I don't mind it trading off here. I'll be stunned for a while, but it'll be good. I am about to Unsettling Twin, so I guess we can manifest that, but it's got a good Enters ability, so I don't really want to. Yeah, I'm probably just going to shove that in grave off the manifest anyway, so just shove it in the grave right now. Oh my god. Opponent is bold about this slasher. Oh, they're just done with unstoppable slashers nonsense. Fair enough. Card is absurd, and we are 3-0 now. I don't know what we were going to manifest here. Probably the cheerleader, right? Cheerleader, yeah, survival manifest is actually really sweet, because your opponent doesn't really get to know if it matters if your manifest card gets in. So maybe it sneaks in, and then you flip it up, and it gets the flying. I don't know. Could be cute. Could be cute, but more ridiculous stuff from our ridiculous rare. Another aggressive curve out somehow. Really lucky draws. With what the curve of this deck legitimately looks like. Our game 1 victory and our game 3 victory, like, those draws were so unlikely. Looking at this mana curve, that we got the curve outs there. But I'll take them. We are 3-0 now, heading into game 4. Alright, here we are for game 4 with another fantastic rare. Maybe we'll actually cast the Ritual Chamber this time. We're on the draw again, so not the easiest veteran survivor rollout, but we'll still do what we can, see if it gets in. Or if our 1-drop trades into the 2-drop, that is also fine. Especially considering the Flesh Burrower makes blocking, like, impossible. Doesn't matter how sturdy our blockers are, 2 of their creatures are going to be coming in with Death Touch. So, what is this again? Draw a card and lose 2 life. Draw a card, lose 2 life every end step. I mean, I need to hit lands on curve. I'm just going to drop it. It's going to be painful for a little while, but it's going to make it more likely that we hit the lands on curve to get to the demon. I guess if they bounce the demon token, that'll be really bad for me. But yeah, if I didn't play that, I wouldn't have land 4 this turn. So we wouldn't be playing out on curve. We're just going to be chump blocking here, which means it's probably best to go for the Living Phone. The Killer's Mask could put something in grave for a merge. Maybe, if there's a really big creature in the top 2, and we have 2 of our really big creatures in hand already. Yeah, no, Living Phone seems better. Seems unlikely that we're going to be popping off with a merge. Oh god, what is this? Manifest Dread, then attach Dissection Tools. It's +2/+2 Death Touch Lifelink. Ooh, 5 mana, 4/4 Death Touch Lifelink. Plus they can flip up the creature, maybe it's even bigger than that. And they can move this around later. Terrifying. Missed on the land again. I can Unstoppable Slasher, trade into one of these, and it'll be sitting here stunned. Is this a demon? No, Zombie Assassin. Still feels worth it. Honestly, not even that bad on the defensive. Trade into their best attacker. And then, ooh, discard a card to hand size is awesome here. Oh my god. Well, Fear of Abduction and Vile Mutilator are incredible when you reanimate them. Anyways, on the defensive, Unstoppable Slasher can still trade into whatever you want and then eventually unstun and do it again later. But I can also just sit there stunned to get exiled to our Fear of Abduction. Which also doesn't seem terrible. Oh, how did I miss land 5? Oh, I had such a great opportunity here for the Emerge now this turn. That would have been like a game-winning Emerge. Chump Chump or Exercise? Chump Chump or Exercise? Take like 4 or 5 damage to kill one of these cards permanently, or take 0 and kill nothing yet. I'll try to just take 0 and kill nothing yet. Oh, these are tragic. Those are the draws I needed. No, not the cheerleader. I guess I ditched the Fear of Abductions. Now I have flexibility. If there's like one specific creature I really need to exile, I can emerge the Fear of Abduction. But I still feel it's likelier we go for the thing that makes them sack one of the 2 instead. I guess technically I could double block Inspector and go to 4, but going to 4 with this Ritual Chamber on board is a death sentence. Well, no, in the end step I'll have a demon on board. In the end step I will have a demon on board. Maybe actually worth it? If I top deck a land. If I don't, I guess I'm dead. Okay, they've got the crazy combat trick anyway, so we were doomed. Trying to kill anything. Oh, man. Alright. Rough game. This game was super, super winnable with land 5, because we have so much removal and giant creatures that flip the board back in our favor, but we just can't cast any of it without the mana. Go down to 2. I can't block both of these creatures, no matter how I play this out. I only have 1 white source, so I can't like play a chump blocker and exercise somebody. There is no line that survives. That's game. All right, here we are for game number 5. Probably the last game of the draft. I'm going to try to cut these a little bit short so that we can get 7 drafts or throughout the week, because I got to record them all in one day during the streamer event, so they're not going to be full 9-game long draft runs or anything. But enough games that we get to see a full record for the deck. I think 5 games is enough to see how many wins, losses on average, if it's going to balance out to like a 3-2 or a 2-3, or if it's going to be like a 5-0 or an 0-3. So I think 5 games a run seems decent. So, I mean, we really need a white source, so I could shoot myself to do it again, but that killed us last time. But that's also because despite drawing an extra card every single turn, we just could never find land 5, so there was also some variance in that one. I feel like the Annex is worth likely just playing. There's Moldering Gem from our opponent to grab a land. I'll be right back. My apologies, had somebody at the door. All right, here we go. We hit the white source on time, so we can go for the Unsettling Twins here. Make sure we're stopping any damage they're trying to deal to us. And that is going to be land 5. We need to make the first demon, the demon from the ritual chamber, which I will do immediately, so that I can get some life gain going instead of life loss. Also want to play Vile Mutilator as quickly as possible, because I imagine they're going to blow up this demon as well. But I'm going to get it for now. What is that? Manifest Dread, whenever they turn a permanent face up, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Ooh. So 2 mana 2/2 instant speed, and if they flip that 2/2 up into a bigger creature, it gets a counter as well. Very sweet. Okay, Fear of Abduction's pretty awesome here. If they do kill this demon, I still get to have a flying blocker, exile their Keybearer thing to stop them from flipping their rooms for free, or unlocking their rooms for free. Like this Wait Room getting a big manifested card. Just looks like a really good position. I mean, this Unholy Annex Ritual Chamber thing is just insane. If you don't die to all the life loss. Alright, manifest from the Wait Room, that's going to be big. It's a 5/5. If it flips up, it's even bigger. I could just exile their flyer immediately while getting another one. That honestly just feels pretty incredible. Just get all this pressure in the sky while I'm draining their life out of here. Jeez. Yeah. A card draw engine and a 6/6 and draining your opponent's life. That is what the card can do if you can get to the 5 mana for it. Insane bomb. And I think that's a lot of what today's deck was, today's draft as a whole. We got a lot of great wins off of our unstoppable zombie thingy, and we got an excellent win off of the Unholy Annex as well. And honestly, our only loss, I think if we could just have hit the mana, the Annex likely would have taken over that game as well. Just from all the card draw, being able to deploy everything that we drew would have been enough to keep us alive. We just didn't have the lands to do so. So really, really powerful deck here, but I don't think it's because I know the format yet or I drafted anything super synergistic or super great. I think it's because these two cards are absolutely spectacular. I would draft them both incredibly highly. We really got to see Unstoppable Slasher in action in several games. It is ridiculous on the offensive. It halved our opponent's life totals. We were getting swings in when they were at 20, putting them down to like 8. But even on the defensive, being able to block Death Touch trade into their biggest creature and then do it again later after all those stun counters are removed is kind of sweet. And again, the amount of card draw you can get off the Annex is huge, especially if you get to the point where you're drawing cards and draining your opponent life. That is just ridiculous. So really fun stuff from the deck, but I don't want to say that this deck is super synergistic or super well drafted. We just got excellent bombs, and they really took over the game. Anything about the commons and uncommons to learn for the future? I really, really liked Fear of Immobility. That was consistently great. The Unsettling Twins were nice as well. Pretty big fan of these. Were there any huge underperformers? Killer's Mask was quite mediocre. I don't think we ever had the time to like move this around as an equipment. But that's just, I guess, the way the games played out was pretty quick because our rares were doing so much work. I liked the Mutilator and the Fear of Abduction and the Shroud Stomper as reanimate targets, and we even got to hardcast Shroud Stomper and Fear of Abduction a couple times, and they were still worth it. Even at such high mana values, they're just such impactful plays. So yeah, sweet deck all around, but again, not a super synergistic one or well-drafted one. Just some really, really powerful individual cards, getting us a solid record here at 4-1 for this early access draft. Once again, probably just going to play 5 or 6 games per draft so that I can fit 7 drafts into one recording session today for the early access streamer events. If you enjoyed this draft and you want to see some more, we're going to be playing early access Duskmourn drafts, putting those videos up for you throughout the week, so they're going to be up daily until the launch of Duskmourn next Tuesday, when we can all play it on Arena, and there's going to be even more just regular Duskmourn drafts at that point. If you want to play Duskmourn yourself, definitely check out the pre-release events. Those are going to be happening this weekend starting Friday, so you can play the set very, very soon. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my Patreon supporters and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you want to see some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.